Le 24 février 1815, la vigie de Notre-Dame de la Garde signala le 3 mâts pharaon, venant de Smyrne, Trieste et Naples. Comme d'habitude, un pilote côtier partit aussitôt du port, rasa le château d'If et alla aborder le navire entre le cap de Morzion et l'île de Rion.
Bienvenue au Count de Monte Cristo, a story of betrayal, imprisonment, and revenge. I'm Zan, bonjour, konnichiwa, aloha, and what's up, and welcome to another episode of the Spiraken Book Club, the podcast where we talk about novels, books, different pieces of artwork, and we tell you what we think about it and if it's worth reading or not. You don't have to do anything we say, but we try to be educational, enlightening, exciting, and most importantly, entertaining. And this is a fun one because this is our 34th installment of Project 45 by 45, where I try to read 45 books before I hit my 45th birthday. And this one is important. One, it is one of the longest books I've read in this entire project, but more importantly, it's a book written by the author who I'm named after. My full name is Alexander, and I'm named after this author. More importantly, this is a book which I've had on my shelf for years, and I have not wanted to read it because it's a little daunting. So I finally read it. And as we know with the Project 45 by 45, I could not stop till I had to finish it completely. I couldn't DNF it, and I did. I read the book completely. And is it worth the hype? Is it as great as it is said to be? Is it worth all the multiple adaptations and versions of the book? More importantly, is this the novel that is considered one of the greatest of all time? Well, let's discuss it because the novel that we're talking about today is one which is known by many people. It is the story of a young man who is sent to a prison for a crime he didn't commit and his path of vengeance. We're talking about Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. And I actually was reading two different versions of this. The first one I did was the signature version, and then I switched over to the Penguin Classic. The signature version is in the original antiquated English, and it's still edited. This version is the unabridged and a little bit easier to read adaptation. It's still the same full book. It's still 12,000. Was it 600 and 12,000? Was it 1,250 something pages? And it is a read that is amazing. This is a book that you want to sit down and read. I see why it was originally released as little compilations, little short novelettes that you had to read the whole series. You couldn't do that otherwise. Because this was written in 1844. It's over 107 years old, and it's a unique story. Now, if you've never heard of the Count of Monte Cristo, let me summarize it for you in a very unique way. We're going to be breaking it down because this book is so important, it's so big. I'm going to break it down into two parts. The first part is the initial story and the inciting incident. Now, note, there will be spoilers in this, but again, this is a book from 1840. It's over 150 years old. So if you don't want to be spoiled, read the book, come back. If you're fine with it being spoiled, you're going to have fun. Regardless, I'm going to give this, I finished it. This is going to get a really, really, really fucking cool. I'm telling you my rating beforehand because of that. I'll get more into what my thoughts are, and then we'll get into the full rating later. But this is a really, really, really fucking cool. It's a really, really cool read now. But let's get into the story. And let's see where we go with this. Because this is one that is important. Because this is the story of Edmond Dantes, a young man who has it all. He's a sailor who's going to be promoted to captain of his own ship, the Pharaon. He is engaged to a woman that loves him, named Mercedes. And they're going to get married really soon, like within 48 hours. He has a dad that loves him, and things are going good. Until on the day of essentially his wedding feast, before the wedding, a bunch of police show up and arrest him for being a Bonapartist. Which, for those who don't know, in 1840, Napoleon Bonaparte was no longer the Emperor of France. He had been exiled to a small island. And for reasons which we'll get into, Edmond Dantes is arrested. And he's sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit. For being a Bonapartist, for conspiring to release the Emperor when he didn't know what he was doing. He was just doing something nice. And because of this, he ends up in prison for 14 years. 14 years stuck in the Chateau d'If, the prison that you're sent not because you're a criminal, but because they want to forget about you. And he's there alone until he meets someone who literally burrows his way into his cell. And from there, they start to concoct an escape plan. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's go to this first part about Edmond Dantes. Who is he? Well, he's a sailor working for Mr. Morel, a very reputable shipment person, a shipment merchant, who is really good at his job. Edmond Dante, the entire crew loves. He is someone who's noble, he's honest, he's trustworthy. He can't lie to save his life, and more importantly, he's someone who's a little naive. The only person who doesn't like him is the ship's, it's not a shipwright, it's the ship's clerk. He's their bureaucrat, he's their businessman on there, Monsieur Dangler, who is a bit of an asshole. He thinks he's better than everyone else, and he doesn't like Dantes. At one point, they were going to pull over onto an island and have a duel, but Dantes realized he was going to screw up. Well, what happened is that as they're coming home, before the book starts, the captain gets very sick and dies. But before he dies, he says, listen, go to the island where the emperor is and see if you can get help. And I have questions. I need you to talk to the this one individual. So he goes, talks to the individual, ends up meeting Napoleon. Napoleon, the general, gives him a letter. Says it's just a simple letter. I want to give it to a specific individual who's living in France. That's it. Just go to Paris, drop off this letter. It's just a polite, cordial greeting from me to them. That's all. There's nothing nefarious about this. Nothing wrong. Dantes doesn't read the letter. He just takes it. He thinks it's a good thing. Gets back on the ship. They get back. And he tells Monsieur Morel about what happened. Because of his honesty, because of his loyalty, Monsieur Morel ends up promoting him, saying, you're going to be captain of the ship if I have my way. I'm going to talk to my partners. We're going to make you captain. Which, as you can guess, Dangler gets very pissed off at. Really pissed off. And instead of celebrating, Edmund says, I'm going to go just visit my father, give him money, and I'm going to visit Mercedes, who is my fiance, who I love. Mercedes is this Castilian woman who is beautiful and mysterious. She's a fisherwoman. And in France, the Catalan people, they marry amongst themselves. So the fact that a Frenchman is going to be marrying someone from a Catalan woman is kind of a big deal. She doesn't want to follow tradition. She wants to marry this guy because she's in love with him. Mercedes is beautiful. She's the most beautiful girl in the area. One tiny problem. She has someone else who wants her affections. Her cousin, Fernand. Her first cousin, Fernand, is in love with her. And like I said, in their cult custom, the tree doesn't fork. So it's like you marry within the family, and so he wants to marry her because she's the best option. And she says that she would rather die than marry anyone else but Edmund. So Fernand is very jealous of this situation, very upset. And then Dangler sees him, and they begin to talk and conspire. There's another person who's involved, Keteros. But Keteros, and I know I'm pronouncing the name incorrectly, I apologize. My French is horrible, as you can tell. But Keteros is a friend of his father, kind of a person who lives in their building, who's a little bit of a loan shark, borrows money, takes money. And he doesn't want to hurt Dante, but he gets there and gets drunk, and he listens to their plan, and he kind of forgets about it. But Dangler has a brilliant idea. Let's write an anonymous letter. I'll use my left hand so no one can read it. And we'll send it to the police, and he'll get arrested. And then you didn't kill Edmund. Edmund doesn't die. He goes to prison, and that way I'll get what I want, and the ship may be mine, and you'll get what you want, because Mercedes will be alone, and no one will care about her. And after a couple of years, she'll want to marry you. Brilliant plan. And that's what happens. And when he gets arrested, he's taken before a prosecutor named Villefort. Monsieur Villefort is someone who is a prosecutor who's trying to up his social status. He's marrying higher than his status, so he'll be doing a little better. And his future wife says, listen, the person that you're leaving are, ironically, another engagement party. You're leaving our engagement party to talk to this person. Show mercy. So Villefort's like, I don't want to do that, but I'll do it. And he sees Dante. He talks to him. And he gets all the information, gets the letter. And he's like, you know what? You're an idiot. You're honest, but you're an idiot. I'm going to let you go. And as he's letting go, he says, wait, what's the name of the person who is involved, who you're going to give this letter to? And Dante says the name of the individual in question. The individual in question is Villefort's father, who's a Bonapartist. And if people find out that his father is involved in this, all of Villefort's machinations go away. So he says, listen, I can't let you go yet. You're going to spend a night in the cell, and then tomorrow you'll take my carriage, we'll take you home. Fortunately, that's not the case. He ends up not going to trial and sends him directly to the Chateau d'If. And they tell him that he's a madman, that he's a Bonapartist who's going to try to overthrow the government. Lock him up. And he is now locked in the Chateau d'If, alone. Meanwhile, Danglars gets the ship. Mr. Morel is concerned about his assistant, keeps going to Villefort. Listen, he's an honest man. Dantes would never do that. Edmond is a good person. Bringing Mercedes to him. They keep talking about it. Trying to get him to listen, to better himself. Nope, he says, I'll take care of it. I'll do the best I can. It's not my fault that he's in prison. Meanwhile, it is Villefort's fault. And Ferdinand, he's like, I'm sorry, my cousin. I love you so much. It's so heartbreaking. But listen, why don't we go out and I'll make you feel better. And after months and months, he gets married to her after 2 years. 2 years and the hints that he's dead or gone. So everyone is doing well. And Danglars, he's going to do well. Villefort going to do well. And Caderousse, well, he's doing okay because he's his own thing. Meanwhile, Mercedes, distraught, marries the man who betrayed her. And then Dante's father, the person he loved the most, who taught him to be a good man, dies, thinking his son, well, his son was a traitor. Dante doesn't know this right now. Dante is in prison as prisoner number 37. And he's stuck in there, ready to kill himself. Things aren't going good. And then he hears someone tunneling, and he meets the Abbe Farah, a priest who is trying to dig his way out. And he went the wrong way. And he talks to Edmond, and they're willing to talk and discuss, and they make an agreement that they're going to dig their way out the other way and work together. And he's going to teach him a little bit more to teach him social graces in exchange for his help. They become friends. And what else are you going to do? You're literally in a prison cell doing nothing every day for so long, and he was this close to killing himself. So let's do this. So he ends up digging a tunnel. And it's fascinating reading this because you're reading it from Edmond Dante's point of view. And you're picturing it in there as you're stuck in a cell. You know you're innocent, and after years of talking to people, no one wants to listen to you. And the worst part is that whenever he gets some headway, Villefort does something which completely backstabs him. It's like he talks to the governor and says, listen, let me talk to my accuser. Let me talk to someone. Let me just get a letter out to my dad. We'll talk about it. And then Villefort says something and just ends up as a note saying, completely insane, don't talk to him. And that's it. And when he's at his lowest, those parts of the book it's rough, it's tragic. But you want to know more. You want to keep going because you want to see where he goes with this. Because he eventually figures out what happened. He figures out because the Farah tells him what he's doing, and he helps him think through the problem. And he figures out who betrayed him, who had things to gain in order for him to be arrested. And he wants revenge. However, Unlike movies, unlike things, Farah is a very ill man. He's an old man, very old. And he has a stroke. And he has some medication that he smuggled in, which will last a little bit, but he has to tell Edmund, he's like, listen, I'm not going to make it. Next stroke's going to kill me. So I have to tell you something. Because the Abbey Farah was known as a madman because he kept offering lots of money to be let out, like millions. And they thought, oh, he's just a crazy old priest. No, it turns out that he was a clerk, a priest for a very wealthy man who died. And no one knew where the money went. The only person who knew where the money is Abbey Farah. And he has a map on how to get there. And he proceeds to tell Edmund how to get it. So, Edmund has to escape still. And unfortunately, he can no longer dig as well as he could because his partner is dying and he'll be alone again. And he's just going to do it alone. He doesn't know what to do. He's like, when you escape, do this, spend the money on you, be happy. And Edmund's like, no, I'm not going to do that. If I get this money, I'm going to use it all on my revenge. That's my goal for everything. And at this point, we have the loss of the priest. He dies as a stroke. And the guards hear the thud. They go. They see him. They're going to bear it. They're going to get rid of the body. They're going to put him in a bag, and they're going to do something with him. And as Edmund goes to say goodbye, he gets an idea. It's a kind of morose idea, but it's a brilliant idea. He takes Abbey Farah out of the bag, brings him through the tunnel, which is super small, back to his cell, turns him so he's sleeping, makes it look like it's him, takes some of his hair, puts it on there so it looks like he's Abbey Farah's him. Then he goes back to the cell and sews himself back into the body bag. And they're like, they don't look at the bag. They're like, he's dead already. So they take it up and they go to get rid of it. And he thinks they're going to bury him and he could probably dig his way out. They're not going to bury him. They connect him to a cannonball and they proceed to throw him off of a cliff. And he's in a bag. Well, Bob's your uncle. He is free. He gets out because he's slick. And then, well, he gets involved with pirates. Really cool scene. If you've watched the adaptation with Jim Caviezel, you know where this goes. He joins a bunch of pirates. The guy Jacopo is not a major part of the story. He's someone else. And from there, he ends up, after some time working with the pirates, making some money, getting spending some years on sea, and discovering what happened to his family. He ends up going back to Monte Cristo. Takes an injury, and he finds the treasure. It's like 30 million. It's like 20 million in lira. So he is absurdly wealthy, like sacrilegiously wealthy. And then his plan will begin. And this first part of the book isn't actually a large part. It actually only goes, that entire segment is only to page 350. At 350, so the length of an entire regular book, that is all one part. And the rest is where it gets interesting. Because the first part is, like I said, it is the setup. It is setting up everything that's going on. We are introduced to our players because we have the three villains, each one for their own reason. Each one, if you look at them, they're all elements of different greeds. I mean, you have Dangler, who is just straight up greed. He's just greedy for money, greedy for power. You have Villefort. He's greedy for status. And then you have Fernand. Fernand is just greedy for lust, for the woman he loves. And Canaros is just a dumb, greedy person who gets his. And because of this noble man that they deal with, they kind of forget about him. Their reasons for doing it are so horrible. And we see, as Edmund is in the cell, as he is now prisoner 37. You see him slowly become more bitter, more enraged at the situation, because he loses 14 years. And then to find out that his rivals are doing amazing. That Villefort has moved to Paris and he's now a baron. Danglars he's a baron. He bought a barony. It's good to go. And Fernand, the Comte de Morclef, he's a hero. He went to a faraway country, betrayed someone, and saved the day, and he's now a count. And he's married to lovely Mercedes, and they have a son named Albert. Everyone's doing good. Meanwhile, Dante is stuck in prison. What's going to happen? What are we going to do? Well, sometimes you need to do something crazy. Sometimes you need to do something brilliant. Well, what happens is inspired. He has Edmond Dantes, we could say, died in the cell in Chateau. He died probably, you could say he died either when the Abbé Farah met him, or when he was going to kill himself, or when Abbé Farah died. He left that person in that cell. What came out was a vengeful being that was made intelligent, patient, and more importantly, someone who is willing to do whatever it takes to get what he needs to do. So the only thing he had was God and the cell. I know this is going to be a longer episode. I'm already 21 minutes in. I haven't even gone to like some of the major points. I've talked about quotes because this is just one of those ones where, wow, I want to really deep dive into this. And in order to deep dive correctly, we got to get into the mindset. Because right now I'm in that prisoner 37 mode where it's like the thinking of being in that cell, the anger, the rage. And the fact is that Mercedes didn't wait is kind of crazy. In a lot of the adaptations, they make Mercedes that she was pregnant and that she had to get married to Fernand. This wasn't that. This is just she thought he was dead and said, you know what? I love him, but I need to move on. Which is sad, but she had to do it. She had to get there. But I digress. I think we need to do a little bit of I think I need a little bit of a glow up as well. So I take a moment and I'll be right back. And as I said, Edmond Dantes died in the Chateau d'If. And what emerged from that body bag was not a good man. A vengeful man who was manipulative, creative, charismatic, and more importantly, patient. Enter the Count of Monte Cristo. A person who would set plans upon plans in order to get his desired goals with a lot of fallout. But do the ends justify the means? Well, that's what Act 2 and Act 3 of this novel is about. About what he would do if they were justified. And as I said earlier, Abbé Farah, upon realizing what he had done, after telling him about the fortune, about telling him, enlightening Edmund to realize what had happened, he had an interesting statement, which was, I regret now, said he, having helped you in your late inquiries, or having given you the information I did. Why so? Inquired Dante. Because it instilled a new passion in your heart, that of vengeance. And with that knowledge, he would move further into his vengeance, doing many things that were despicable, potentially criminal, but justified in his own way. I mean, think about it. 4 conspirators who ruined his life. Cateros, Villefort, Fernand, who would become Fernand Mondego, who would become the Count of Monte, and then Danglars. These 4 ruined his life. Now he has to get his revenge. And it's not going to be as simple, I'm going to kill you. No. Far worse. Far worse. As I said, each one has their element, the thing they are greedy for. and each one would be removed off the table. It's going to take time, years, but he sets it up. And when he finally announces his plan, when we finally see his plan, it takes in book time 6 months, plus the 14 years, plus the 5 years of him making money to get where he's at. But he needs a linchpin, a way to get in. And what is the best way to get in? Well, you need a pawn. And what better pawn than a viscount, son of Baron Monsef and Baroness Monsef, Countess Monsef, Fernand and Mercedes, their child Albert, who's a young man who wants to have some fun in Rome. Things can happen, and maybe someone will rescue him. And that entryway lets him go into the world as a savior and as an enigmatic noble, maybe a potential investor. But the thing is that at this point, he has gone so much further into it. It's not just the 10 years he spent as the Count, because he wasn't just the Count. He had multiple identities in order to get this down. He set up businesses. He set up homes for each one so that you would not think that the Abbe Bouchon was the same as Lord Whitmore, which is the same as a accountant for Thomas and Frank, or Sinbad the Sailor. Each one, different person that assists or helps. And you literally will see scenes where a character will talk to one of the identities and then go to talk to another one, and he'll get there late, but it'll be a different person altogether. It takes a while for that big reveal. And I'm spoiling a little bit, but if you've read the book or you haven't, it's fascinating. I wish they kept all these different elements in the various other versions. Very Lupin the Third-esque. And honestly, it is one which it is worth savoring, enjoying. But on the same token, vengeance is not the only thing a story is about, because vengeance isn't a great thing. It's not a good thing. And as he says, he decided it was human hatred and not divine vengeance that plunged him into this abyss. He doomed those unknown men to every torment that his inflamed imagination could devise, while still considering that the most frightful were too mild, and above all too brief for them. Torture was followed by death, and death brought, if not repose, at least insensibility that resembled it. And it's saying that death is too good for these men. And this hatred has dragged him into the abyss, but he's going to drag them with him. He was in hell, and they need to be there. And he's going to be focusing on all of their avarices, each one. Catarose was just a greedy man, so why not give him a chance to get out and let his nature do his own thing for him? Villefort, his status is what's important to him. Pull out some skeletons out of the closet and let's see where it goes. Let's see them destroy him. Fernand, the family that you stole from him, he'll steal from you, but he won't take it away. He'll show the truth about how this honorable man is not really an honorable man. And then finally, Dangler. Position and money is everything, so take it all away. Whatever's left, let the dice decide. And that is what the Count does. The Count is not merciful, is not kind. He's calculating, and all of his moves are set in the future. Except for one thing, which the book goes into. There is one family that he has a soft spot for, that he helps out and that he cares about. And then in the end of all this, if he dies, if he fails, no matter what, this family has to be taken care of, because they are important to him. Because they were there for him emotionally, and their family did nothing wrong. Someone who did right by him, and he was unable to do right by them. And he does right by them in a wonderfully beautiful way. He does destroy some marriages along the way, but makes it worth it. This is a novel that is to be ingested and savored. You don't rush this. There are moments which seem long and make no sense. There are moments which it's just like, why am I reading about this abbé who's talking to this guy in the park? It's because there's more going on. The proverbial Chekhov's gun, over and over again. This is the predecessor to the Chekhov's gun, where they set these moments that you wonder about, that you're savoring, that you're ready to get to, and you have to pay attention. So they'll come back, and you'll be like, aha, that happened. I see he set it up there, and you want to go back and read it again. This is a book you do want to read again. And unlike with someone like Frank Herbert, whose prose are just long-winded, every single moment has an intention to it. And yes, it is true that the writing style of the period was you get paid by the word, and that's why this is so long, so we can make money. However, it flows exceptionally well. And there's so many little moments that are hinted at that you don't notice until you read it a second, a third time. Or for me, I was paying attention, going back and reading. There's a simple thing. After the Count is introduced into Paris, after he's made his notations, and after Mercedes sees him again, he's the man that she knows. Well, kind of knows, maybe. Albert notices something about him or remarks on something. Which is pretty interesting. You know, Mother, Monsieur de Monte Cristo is almost a man of the East and Orient. In order not to interfere with his freedom to take revenge, he never eats or drinks in his enemy's home. And it's something that we notice, that he doesn't. When they're at his house, he eats. But whenever he's out, he doesn't, especially when he's at the Villefords, at the Montclefs, or at Danglars, never eats, never drinks, never touches their stuff. And there's a point when Countess Monsef wants to take him to the garden and tries to feed him grapes or peach. And he doesn't want any. And it's at this moment that we realize that Mercedes knows who he is. She never forgot him. She still loves him, but she can't do anything. And later on, like spoilers, there's a point when she begs him for forgiveness, but says she can't change her past. And he won't take it. Because the young girl who was a fisherwoman who was in love with a sailor isn't there anymore. And the sailor she was in love with is dead. It's been replaced by something mean, calculating, and angry. A lot of the film adaptations change this. So Mercedes and Edmund get together. But it takes away from what happens. More importantly, it takes away from this relationship. I'm not going to lie. I love them getting together. I love the adaptation with Jim Caviezel. I love the 1970s version. I love the new adaptation. But by having them be together, it kind of dilutes the revenge a little bit. And more importantly, there's other characters that may be better options. And as I said, as we set up all of these dominoes and pawns, in every chess set you need a queen. And his queen piece is someone who helps him out, who is devoted to him. Katie, a Greek woman who was sold into slavery by none other than the Count de Monte. A skeleton in the closet, as I said earlier. And we follow and see what happens. I'm not going to spoil everything. No, not by a long shot. I want to talk more about this. I want to have a deep dive on this. So I'm probably going to do a super deep dive on this in the future. If you're interested in that, let me know. Leave a comment down below if you would like me to go deeper into the Count of Monte Cristo, break it down chapter by chapter maybe. Get some people to talk about it. Discuss what happens. Do a whole year of that maybe. This might be worth it. But above all, this book is about hope. Because not just the hope of Edmond Dantes getting revenge, but about a little redemption as well. And the hope for someone who's in love with someone else to get together and to find happiness. And to bring happiness to the people around them and those to learn from them. And you've noticed I haven't talked about what happens to our conspirators. Well, you gotta read to find out. But they are just desserts. Well, for the most part. There's one individual who, unfortunately, goes a little too far. And even the Count mentions, I didn't intend for this. but sometimes you have to burn more than you need to. Or maybe not. Let me know your thoughts if you know what I'm talking about. But regardless, going forth, thinking about this, where we're at, what are we going to do? What am I going to give on this rating? Well, as I said earlier, you know what I'm going to give it. This is a wonderful, amazing story that should be read by all. It is the revenge story. That's why it's so popular right now. That's why social media's been talking about it like no tomorrow. Because it's in the time we're at right now, we need some hope and a little vengeance. And this is the quintessential one. So, as you guess, I'm giving this a really, really, really cool. Read it now. This is the quintessential revenge story. This sprawling, nuanced feast of detail that you have to read. And you should savor it, not just rush it. You need to take your time. This is a 10-course meal. This shouldn't be a one and done. You won't appreciate the moments of it. And also, you'll be kind of confused if you kind of skim through it. So a lot is going on. And you want to know about the characters and see why he would hire Bosep. Or why Louis Vampa is so important. Gotta read it to find out. But yeah, I know this is almost a rudimentary rambling. But I think that's the best way to do this is because you need to talk about it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you've read this, if you want to read this, if you like this, if you don't. Let me know your thoughts. Or you can email me personally at Xan, that's Xan at Spiraken.com. And before I go any further, I'd like to remind you that this week from July 31st through the 2nd, Greta and I will be at Otakon 2026 at the Walter D. Washington Convention Center in Washington, D.C. We have 4 panels. Definitely check it out. If you want to know more about that, check our manga review for the official schedule. I do have some gifts to give away, including some badge ribbons and a few other surprises, but you have to wait and see. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Our next review is going to be a nonfiction. I know, crazy, we're going from fiction to nonfiction, but this one is one involving a family that moves to sea as well. But I'm not going to spoil anymore. As usual, I'm your host, Xan. I'm Gonzville. Catch you guys next time. And as always, keep reading books. I will see you later.